In the quilt.
Into one of my quilts. Well, it looks brand new because I don't ever wear it.
That's what I'm saying.
That's how I treat my friends. Okay. Oh, good morning, everyone. We're live. Ready to roll. No, I didn't even have pancakes this morning. I just had eggs.
Eggs.
Cheesy eggs with no dairy, no milk, I mean. All right, hold on. We got to get our Patreon thanks up. Do we have any new patrons?
I don't know.
Scheduled.
Wow, today's the 17th.
Already?
All day.
It felt like it was just like the first.
I thought you were gonna say 16.
It felt like it was just the 16th.
It felt like it was just yesterday. That's so weird. Okay, so we got a good show for you today.
We do.
I'm going to hit record on the audio.
Is it working? Oh.
I had somebody on Instagram did a story and tagged us and said he's listening to us on his drive. And he said something about having to slum it with the extracted audio from the video instead of like a dedicated audio recording. Yeah, I know, it's terrible. All right, so you ready to start the show?
I am ready.
I can't wait for my new glasses to come in. They're coming in soon.
Can we just start a show?
Look, I'm concerned about my fashion. Nicole, I'm an influencer. This means I have to be concerned about how I look
Don't use that
all the time. Frankly, I don't think this Matt Cremona shirt is flattering. It makes me look like I have giant boobs. Giant red boobs.
Giant red
Oh,
pecs.
they're called pecs when you're a dude.
Yes.
Okay. Flabby pecs. How about that?
Or just muscular pecs.
All right, let's do a show.
Yeah.
It's Friday Live. I'm Mark.
And I'm Nicole.
And today we're going to give you some soothing sounds from the world of woodworking.
And our radio voices.
Oh, yeah. What do we got today?
Faces for radio.
That is the truth. No, you're fine.
Jesus laughing.
You could do a video show. I could see you being.
Howard Stern.
I think you'd have to go a little more blonde. Get yourself a nice little coffee cup. Sit in a chair with like a man dress.
Like
what do they call those?
Delilah.
Not a man dress. A pantsuit. A pantsuit.
Pantsuit.
It's a man dress.
What?
I don't know. Whatever, Nicole.
Hi,
Whatever.
everybody.
So good morning.
Hey.
I don't think we have anything to show off, but we got tons of questions.
Well, we do. We have something that you got that you need to look at, but we're not going to do that today.
Too much work, Nicole.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
We also have a project that we just completed when Matt was here. I'll show you that in a second. Got some great questions, and we want to thank folks who helped us out on Patreon.
Yep.
Patreon.com/woodwhisper. By some folks, I assumed it was plural. Turns out it's singular. There's only one person. His name is Rob Hartzog. So thank you very much, Rob. Rob with two B's. Appreciate that, Rob. Thank you so much.
Thank
And hey,
you, Rob.
if you want to help support the show, you can do that as well. That's at patreon.com/woodwhisper. And we've been talking about that. The Patreon number, seems to be trending downward.
We're just flat right now.
I
I need to refresh the
offerings.
rewards.
Yeah, make the rewards a little more interesting. Maybe I'll start showing a little more skin. I will do anything for money.
Did you hear about the woman? So there's a woman that sends nudes if you prove that that you donated to Australia.
Oh, hold up. Who?
I sent you $5.
Hold on. Okay, well, I'll split it with you.
No.
I'm going to split it with
This is a
you.
family show. This is a family show. But I was like, it was a whole, I felt like I went down a rabbit hole of a whole nother world of the internet.
Oh, that's a whole
But I'm
different
like,
world.
Okay, I'm going to come back now.
There's money to be made out there, Nicole.
It's an interesting.
If you got the plumbing, there's money to be made.
Interesting world.
Okay, so anyway, that's patreon.com/woodwhisper. Of course, being completely honest, we always appreciate the support in any form. Even if you don't contribute, the fact that you watch, maybe click that thumbs up button. You know, that little thumbs up thing.
Or the person that does that thumbs down.
Or you click that thumbs
you.
down. We still love you. But I still imagine that thumb going down, 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 a little lower, and then up your poop chute. Because that's what I think about that thumb down. Okay, so what do we have? We have some questions?
We have quite a few questions. I posted to Patreon yesterday. Every Thursday I post and say, hey, we're going to do a show.
Okay, all right, great.
Preload those questions now.
Before we get to the questions, I will show a couple of little things you might be interested in. So Matt was here for a week, and we decided to embark on a little step stool build. This actually, the original inspiration from this came from an article we found on Woodworkers Guild of America. It's just a free article on their website about a dovetailed step stool. But we decided to try to take it a step further, and Matt did an all hand tool version, or mostly hand tool version, and I did a mostly power tool version. We've got these nice angled sides like that, dovetailed up into the top. I decided to add a little bit of a curve because that's what I do. Excuse me. And this is a really nicely figured sapelli, or they people call it, what is it, Pomelli sapelli? Pomelli sapelli, if you want it to sound good. But it's kind of this bee's wing figuring in there that just, oh my gosh, it looks awesome. We were so excited when we found this because I think over at Austin Hardwoods when Randy saw that board and realized it was on the board of regular priced boards that no one wanted. Yeah. And we're like, we'll take it. I'm pretty sure he wishes he could have cut that up and brought it in into the showroom and charged more for it. It's beautiful. So this, we haven't quite decided what the fate of that content will be yet, whether it's going to be a free tier project in the guild or if we're going to charge for it. I don't know for sure, but you may very well be able to get this thing, the project videos and everything for free inside the guild. So we'll see about that.
Ricardo said, what's the weight limit on the stool? I don't know.
We haven't found it yet.
We haven't.
It holds J. Yeah. Honestly, I think it is probably adequate for most human beings. Yeah. I mean, pretty sturdy. We made it with 5/4, so this is actually pretty thick material. The angle, the splay, some people are concerned that, oh, you put too much weight, it's going to spread out. I mean, look at these dovetails. In order for those legs to spread out, these dovetails all have to let go. Something seriously heavy has to be on this thing. I stand on this and it doesn't even sway. So I think, two or three normal grown men could stand on this.
Rich says, how many Dougies could it hold?
15, 50 Dougies.
He's like 50 pounds.
I don't think that there are any limitations to the capacity of this thing if it's used the way it's intended to be used as a step stool. Yeah. If you jack up your car and put that on there,
you might have problems.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. If you have a pet elephant that you're trying to do tricks with, you know how they stand on those little step stools,
like
right?
The little step stool.
If you're, one of those people, then you might want to think about what you do with it.
Hey, Matt Van Overloop is in the chat.
Oh,
and
hey.
He's just got back from the hospital with baby number 3.
What?
Congratulations, Matt.
Oh, look at you, contributing to overpopulation.
Welcome to the baby cave.
That's good, though. Congratulations to you and yours on the little nugget. So I got one more thing to show you. This is where I'm going to try to get you guys to buy something. Ready? Aww. So I, not only make furniture, but have furniture. Yeah. And sometimes that furniture doesn't do what I really want it to do, right? And that's where this comes in. So we bought a new couch not that long ago, and it had those armrests that flip up, and there's storage inside there, and it's just a plastic bin. And I was like, what would be great? Since this thing is in a corner, there's electrical outlet behind it. What if we could just drill a hole in the bottom of that thing and put a little bit of power, maybe some USB power here, which is, for us with iPhones everywhere and iPads,
everything
super
needs
handy.
to be charged.
Yeah, everything needs to be charged. I thought maybe I would include one of these things in there, and this was so easy to install. I just grabbed the big fat Forstner bit, drilled the hole, popped it in, screwed it on, plugged it in, and it's good to go. So these little units, I'm going to encourage you to look into these, even for your own furniture. A lot of times if technology changes, these are standard hole sizes and you could swap them out. So if you're making furniture and you're thinking about creature comforts and modern furniture, think about including things like this because these are really, really nice to have if you're building a side table or something. Maybe you could find a way to get some USB power on there. People love this stuff. And by people, I mean us. We love these things.
I was concerned about drilling plastic.
Yeah.
But it looks great. It looks
it's nice and clean. It's got a nice little flange on it, so it covers if the hole's a little bit ratty and you need to use a jigsaw to cut it. It would cover that just fine. And it's just great having power right there.
Yeah, that was a little project you decided to do over the holiday break.
Yep, one of those things.
So I put the link in the Friday Live Amazon store. So if you go to amazon.com/shop/thewoodwhisperer, you'll find the exact one Mark bought and installed.
And lots of different kinds.
When are you going to install that one?
It's not that hard. It's on the other side. I just got to bring the thing in here and drill it.
We do this thing in our house. I don't know if you do it, where one of us, usually him, will pick something up with this great idea, and then I proceed to move it around the house for about 2 months.
Is this how it happens?
This is how it happens. I'm talking about the fire ladders upstairs that have been sitting in the hallway.
Oh, the safety ladders. I'm going to teach my kids how to jump out a window.
Like moving those around now.
That is a whole different thing. I have to prepare
I understand. I
for
understand.
like
I'm just
what do
saying.
I tell my children
This
when
is
I'm
the thing.
teaching them how to escape the house
Yeah.
safely?
Yeah.
And Mateo's like, well, can we try it? Like, well, I kind of don't want you climbing down a rope ladder, for no reason. It's for emergency,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
here's what you need to do. So it's a whole thing. Why are we even talking about this?
Because
Okay.
it's a thing that happens in our house,
You're the
whether
best.
you really realize it or not.
Now, what happens in the house, you guys know what happens. The house is like dirty, right? 2 kids, stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Kids stuff on top of it, like any flat surface, covered with stuff. I have one thing in there, and it might be something I bought on Amazon that's sitting in a box. One thing. And she's like, something has to be done about this. You need to do something with this. But she's saying it, and I could barely see her face because there's a pile of kid and Nicole stuff there. But this one thing,
Yep.
this is going to make the
It's shop
difference.
stuff. I know where that goes, and it's not in the kitchen.
I love you.
I love you
You're
too.
the best. Okay.
We have some super chats. In fact, one came in right before we went live.
Can I interrupt you?
Oh, yeah.
This is important. So our buddy Izzy Swan, someone just
yes.
says that he was moved out of ICU to a regular room, according to his wife, about 19 hours
Oh,
ago.
that's great.
For those of you who didn't hear, Izzy had some serious back surgery. And this is the kind of surgery that it's like a make or break sort of thing. He's trying to get mobility back. And I don't know the details about the surgery, but all I know is, oh, that was noisy.
It was
A rain
it was a
alert.
serious surgery, 10 hours.
Yeah, 10-hour surgery. When you're messing with your back, that's just no fun. So wishing Izzy all the best, but great to hear that he's getting out of the
Yay.
ICU. And hopefully, I don't know, he said he was going to
WORKBENCHcon.
to WORKBENCHcon. Doesn't sound like a whole lot of healing time between
Yeah.
now and that, but we'll
Don't
see.
rush it, Izzy. Just take it
There's
easy.
always next year.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah,
He
we're
might go
hope
next.
you're doing well.
He'll probably go
Hey, don't
again.
make it. No. This was like a once in a decade
Okay.
sort of thing.
Once in a decade.
Yeah. Okay.
No. Okay. So the super chat that came in before we start
Yipping and
broadcasting came from Doug Johnson.
Doug.
And he said, rip, rest in peace, Neil. Peart. Is it Peart? Peart.
Okay,
Peart.
Daryl Peart
Peart.
likes to pronounce it Peart.
Uh-huh.
Neil Peart,
Peart.
to my understanding, pronounced it Pert.
Okay.
Which is why I always talk to Daryl, who I met after I knew about Neil.
Yeah, because you
And I would
loved
call him Daryl Pert, and he's like, no,
My name is
it's
Peart.
Peart. So anyway, yeah,
he's a-
Neil Pert.
Passed away.
Yeah, he passed away recently.
Greatest drummer ever.
I have to agree with you. When I first started drumming, I got a couple of VHS tapes.
Mm-hmm.
These are these things that they used to put video on. And I got like a Chad Smith drum clinic. I got one from the dude Carter Beauford from what do you call it? You know what I'm talking about?
Video home.
That guy, Dave Matthews.
Dave Matthews.
And what you call it? Oh, and a awesome set of just drumming instructional content from Neil Peart. It was fantastic. I could never do anything that guy did, but it was like just watching. It was like watching a master woodworker who's on the next level.
Crazy set of
It was.
drums.
There was more things than you would know what to do with.
Right.
It was insane, and a lot of people do that, but they don't deserve it. Right?
Right.
They're not even good enough to have that extra symbol. He's one who was good enough and
Yeah.
made use of it, and was like meticulous drumming engineer. God.
Have you ever thought about making some drums?
Oh hell no.
No?
Yeah, I have. I mean, when people tell me to
kinda
make a guitar, I'm like, if I do an instrument, it's going to be something
A
more like
drum.
a drum, a cajon, or something like
Yeah.
that before I do a guitar. Yeah,
Bongos.
bongos, something like that.
Kids could beat on those. A thank you to Joseph Mensch, who did a super chat for Matt's Uber last week. And
Oh, yeah.
I missed it at the very, very end of the show.
Well,
so.
that Matt's Uber went into my gas tank
Yeah.
because I was Matt's Uber last week.
I hope he gave you 5 stars.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm doing my best.
All right.
Okay, so someone says on a serious classic rewind, they kept calling him Neil Peart with like the way Daryl pronounces it, not Pert, and now he's confused.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, David. I might be just adding to your confusion here. I don't know. I always called it Pert.
Yeah. Did you ever hear him say his own name?
I don't know.
like an interview
That
or
doesn't
anything.
matter.
Yeah, it does. They're like, how do you?
I spell my
just
name
like,
with a C, but that doesn't stop people from spelling it with a K.
No. Like Spagnolo.
Like an interview or someone official.
Because I've heard people say Spagnolo as Spagnolo.
Well, because they're the kind of people who pronounce taco. When you should just say the word taco. Okay. What else we got? I got some questions. You want to jump into questions?
Let's jump into some questions.
Okay, so Charles Master says several woodworkers have stressed the neuro impairment and septic injuries related to wenge. I don't recall you saying anything about these risks when working with it, and several of the woodworking projects seem to use a fair amount of it. Could you address this, please? Okay, I can't really address it because I don't know a whole lot about it. I treat wenge like any other wood, and I'm very careful with it. I don't breathe the dust. I would say with wenge, and I have addressed this, you want to avoid the splinters because they're nasty. And they're also very easy to get with wenge. So it might be the one woodworking project where you might see me wearing gloves when I normally wouldn't, just because I don't want all those little splinters all over the place.
The summer of wenge. Remember that?
And I haven't used it that much. I used it on the bed that I made for Ed. I think I used it as a little trim material on the humidor. And I've done some personal projects outside of the Wood Whisperer with wenge, but beyond that, I haven't really used it that much because I find it very unpleasant to work with.
If you are part of Patreon, you should be able to see some posts I did. When we first started, I posted a lot of Mark's old work, like before Wood Whisperer days. Yeah. And I posted those wenge
refrigerators?
Yes.
They basically were like, they looked like refrigerators because they were not my design. It was me executing someone else's design, but they were very big and boxy and square. And all wenge, except for the fronts, were lined with this weird textured steel plate.
Yeah.
And it just made it look like a refrigerator. So, but yeah, that was Ed's design and part of his furniture set that he was trying to have someone execute for him.
So in the Patreon account, it's under the category Throwback Friday. And you remember the sushi cart that you made?
Oh my gosh, yeah, for the
Ritz.
Yeah, the Ritz-Carlton downtown Phoenix.
Yep.
They needed for their sushi nights. They needed a mobile cart.
You did a great job on that.
That was cool. That was a fun one.
That was a fun one. And I always thought that was beautiful. The slatty cabinet.
Little armoire thing.
Cabinet.
It's a slatty cabinet.
The slatty cabinet.
It'd be a great.
Oh, and then I posted the picture of
me humping the bookshelf.
Yes.
The bookcase.
I think this is your second project because the first project we didn't get any. Because the first project you made.
No one needed to take pictures of that.
That's fine.
That was bad news.
But this was the second version of that.
Yeah, that was my mom's friend paid me to make that.
Yeah.
Like $50.
It doesn't look like I did post those wenge. I guess I'll do that.
Maybe you can post that later.
Yeah, I'll post that.
Next question I have here is from David Wiggins. He says 2 questions. First is a Festool question. I mostly use the Rotex 150 when I want to do random orbit sandings. Is getting the random orbit only, the 153 or the 155 sander, worth any potential sanding quality improvements? I've been thinking about it for comfort reasons. It's lighter, more ergonomic, but wasn't sure about the quality of the finish left behind. Also, the fact that it's roughly $550. And then secondly, do we know of any better? Okay, we'll cover that second question because David likes to get his money's worth. He likes to ask 2 questions at once. That's my guy right there. So here you go. This is what we're talking about. This is the Festool Rotex, this big behemoth here, and this is a 150/5. And that second number just refers to the orbit pattern, 5 being the wider pattern, 3 being a tighter pattern. So I have always felt that the Rotex is a great jack-of-all-trades kind of tool. If you are tearing finish off of a board, if you are taking a rough board and just trying to smooth it out a little bit, this thing is like a random orbit belt sander. Like it's really aggressive, can be a little bit tricky to control. But you take it out of that mode, take it out of Rotex mode, then it just operates, like a regular random orbit sander. And the problem that I and others have with this is the fact of the weight and the balance. It's a little bit off. So you kind of have to get used to this. Like when I hold this guy here and I lift, it immediately wants to tip back. That's out of balance. When I hold this and lift, it stays right where it is. So when doing long finish sanding operations, This thing is so much less fatiguing. It doesn't have a tendency to tip back, which is something that can affect sanding quality. This guy, on the other hand, you'll find most people who use these a lot will take the hose off the back, whip it up over their shoulder, and have a little bit of a counterbalance there, which can definitely help. To me, I'd rather not worry about it. So I'm glad I have this. There are some times when, maybe you're sanding an end grain cutting board. This is like the only thing that's going to get there, within a reasonable time frame, outside of like a router sled. So I like having it, but my day-to-day sander is this guy. Now, is it worth, an extra $550? Probably not. I mean, you're getting the sanding done, but do you want a better sanding experience and possibly less likelihood of having those little pigtail swirls or digging into the surface? That other sander will get you there. Or any random orbit sander that's just a standard random orbit sander will get you there. So I think the Rotex is great, but I don't want it as my everyday all-around sander.
So I found the picture of the icebox, and I said,
There it is.
You made this the summer of 2007, and shortly after you decided to go into content production full time.
Yeah.
I remember you're like, maybe I don't do commissions.
Right. We did the Wood Whisper, but that was something that was a commission on the side I didn't cover on the show. Yeah. We're trying to figure out what we wanted to do with this whole thing. Okay, yeah, I'm with you there.
And this was, I think, one of the pushes to say, don't really want to do commission.
The amount of work I did for the amount of money I received
was
like, it definitely made me go, let's look into that YouTube thing.
Yeah. Well,
not even at the time.
It was iTunes.
Let's not get into that.
Let's look into iTunes.
Let's look into that iTunes thing. Okay, so second part to David's question, he's asking about flocking. He says, do you know of any better material that you can line boxes with other than flocking? The flocking I've been using leaves a rough, thin surface and not the luxurious feel that I'm going for. Excuse me. You're not alone there, David. A lot of people don't like flocking. It seems to, like, it's supposed to be luxurious, but a lot of people don't apply it right. Or it doesn't, just the end result is not what they expected, and it has the opposite effect of being luxurious. It kind of looks crappy. He says, are there any other options other than that suede Tex brand, other products? Gluing fabric in really sucks, but the flocking options I've seen are even worse. So you kind of identified the most common options. You've got flocking, which is apply adhesive and then blow the suede fibers in there to let them adhere to the adhesive. Second option is to actually cut. Sometimes they have adhesive backed suede that you could put into the surface. I find those to be tricky because you got to, it's like cutting it ahead of time to get so that it fits perfectly in that space with no wrinkles, no bubbles. I think that's a little bit tricky too, and not my favorite way to go. There is another option though that you might consider. Go back onto the Wood Whisperer site, the free site. Look for the Gary Rogowski keepsake box that we did. Gary uses like a rice paper or something on the inside of his boxes. This may not at all be what you're looking for, especially if we're talking about like your sunglass boxes and things where you want a soft material. This is going to be a hard material, but it was a really unique way to line the inside of a box, and you can get the like designs on these pieces of paper, and they're fairly easy to apply. It's almost like putting a little thin sheet of wallpaper in there. So that might be something to consider. But in the world of soft finishes on the inside, that's all I know of, man, is flocking and suede inserts or something. So I don't know, maybe the chat room has more suggestions. I don't have a ton of experience in that area myself.
We got a nice super chat from Chris Davidson. He says, coffee money.
Woo!
Coffee money.
We need more of that.
And then Kevin Windsor has a question. Have you tried the oily rag and the can trick by Paul Sellers for lubing planes? Works great for me. Anyone else in the chat using it?
Okay, let's
What's
clarify.
that?
That's an old trick. Paul didn't invent it. But on the internet, if you're the first one to say it loudly, you invented it, which is why I'm the inventor of cutting boards.
Yes.
No one ever did that before I did it. I haven't done that. I remember David Marks in his shop used to keep this weird looking little stick. It was like some kind of weird fabric stick or rope or something that was just bathed in oil, and you could put a little oil on the end, but it just kind of sat in his tool cabinet, and you could just rub it down, and it was just ready to go. No, it's a non-drying oil. It's just it's there for lubrication purposes.
Okay.
But if you do have something you're thinking about oils that might combust. That's why you would put it in a can, so it's limiting how much oxygen it has access to. I don't really.
Oxidation.
Yeah, I don't really do that myself. It's not a bad idea, especially if you are using your hand tools like routinely a lot. Having that kind of lubrication on hand is a pretty good idea. But I've got some wax that I use for mine. I also live in an area where it's really, really dry. So, lubrication and rust preventatives and things like that, it's not as big of a deal for me. A little coat of wax will do me just nicely. And if I feel a plane that's just kind of grabbing a little bit too much, I just grab a little bit of wax, wipe it on, and I'm done. So, okay.
Let's see her.
Did you know that Cremona invented the slab?
I didn't know
He did.
that.
He also invented the sawmill.
The sawmill. He invented that?
Look, I don't mean to brag,
It was on the internet.
but I know some really important people who have made a lot of inventions.
You're such a smart butt.
I am. Okay. I got one here from Brody Bricky.
Brody! I haven't heard from Brody in a while. Hi, Brody.
Speaking of hand tools, he says, how are you liking the Veritas planes? The Blue Spruce review last week was a bit of a surprise. Any updates that won't get you into trouble? So these planes are great, and I got to say, they passed the Cremona approval. He's not a fan of the low angle style. He likes to have, for some reason, he thinks that there are like animals or monsters will be attacking him, and he needs to protect the front of his hand. And he likes to have his hand covered by something. It's just weird. We were using these on this Sapele, and that stuff is nasty. Like, it's hard, the grain is temperamental, but the smoother did a fine job, and my jack plane did a very, very fine job. So I'm quite happy with those so far. And to be clear on the Blue Spruce thing, I probably shouldn't have said anything, maybe a little bit premature, because I don't want to throw a company under the bus.
For one thing.
For one thing, but something that I haven't even fully investigated. But I have to be careful because I don't want people making purchase decisions based on something I'm now a little bit unsure about.
Yeah.
So I'm withholding my judgment until I get some of the Veritas PMV11 chisels in my hand, and I just do some direct comparisons. And I probably should be contacting Blue Spruce just to talk to him about it and say, look, I don't know if this is, I just got a bad batch, or if this is normal and my expectations are off. I don't know. But right now, from what I've seen, performance-wise, the Stanley Sweethearts were absolutely comparable, if not better, edge retention than what I was getting with the Blue Spruce chisels I was using here. And it wasn't just me. Matt was also evaluating this with me, and in fact was the person who brought it up. Because I gave him a freshly sharpened chisel, and he's like, what the heck just happened here? So it's a thing. But I got to be careful, because I love these companies, and I want to respect them, and I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and screw them over because of one simple thing. So we have to. It's a very powerful medium we have here, Nicole.
You have great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yes, I've got a big mouth too, and I've got an hour to fill every Friday.
I will not.
Things come out.
I will not correct you on anything that you just said.
Okay. Stumptown Woodworks. This is my last question here.
I have some super chats, and I've been grabbing questions from the YouTube chat.
He says he used to use Armor Seal a lot. Now he's using more oil and wax finishes. I have a family member that would like a maple desk for their daughter, his niece, and they want to keep it as true to maple color as possible. I'm thinking water-based poly, but this stuff can't be applied with a rag like Armor Seal, right? So regular foam brush, dry, same between coats, repeat. Any other thoughts on trying to keep maple true to color, not set up for spraying, short of rattle cans? And it's a fairly small desktop, 18 by 36. Thanks, Toots.
Oh, people can hear that. Stop that. Stop it.
I wasn't actually even swallowing. Okay. Yes, I think you're on the right track. Water-based is probably the way to go. Now, you can absolutely look into how do I apply a water-based finish, foam brushes, sanding between coats. That stuff is out there. I'm not going to even go through that. What I'm going to do is suggest a product that might be an answer for the challenge, and that is a water-based wipe-on finish. All right?
Are you done?
Nope.
Because apparently I interrupt you too much.
You do. Did someone else bring it up?
No.
Okay, you're still hung up on that one person. Look, Nicole, you got to let the internet comments just roll off your back.
Yeah.
You got to become more jaded with stuff like me.
Yeah, sure.
It never bothers me.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, old man.
This is Vermont Natural Coatings.
Ooh.
All right, hold on. We got a little magic trick for you here. Ready? Nicole's gonna demo this for you. There you go.
Aww.
Excuse me. So that's our Vermont Natural Coatings.
Ah!
Oh, big. It's a product they have called Polyway. This particular product, Nicole will have a link in the show notes for you guys or in the chat room.
Oh, yeah.
This is what they are claiming to be a wipe-on finish. You can brush it. You can use a foam brush or a regular brush, but they also say that you could wipe it on with cloth. I have no experience with this myself. I'm a little bit suspicious because water-based still, even in a different formula, it dries quickly, so you got to work fast. But this is something that they claim you can use, and it is water-based. The Polyway stuff is really low VOC, and this is something I would recommend you at least give a shot to.
I'm curious if anyone in the chat room has used it.
Maybe, yeah. And that's the thing. They say that you could wipe it on, so who knows? I also might recommend Osmo. Osmo, while it is an oil-based product, we have found that Osmo doesn't really take away the natural look. It doesn't add as much yellow and amber color to maple. Case in point, here, look at this. This workbench. This workbench is made of maple.
Yes.
And it has Osmo on it. And you could see,
Yeah.
this darn throat of mine, you could see it's actually maintained most of that lighter color maple, little bit of yellowing, but this is what's going to happen with maple. Not as much as if I hit this with like Armor Seal or Seal-A-Cell.
So Gazank mentioned something.
Oh, that guy.
He said, I've heard many times that new chisels have brittle edges and have to be sharpened back a few times to get rid of that.
Well, we did sharpen them. They've been sharpened thoroughly at least 3 times. What you're saying is also part of the reason why I don't want to like shoot from the hip on this.
Sure.
And I want to give it more time.
Yeah. Time.
I'm done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've done all my questions. I'm sorry. I should have let you know.
Yeah, because when you're married, you just kind of talk over each other.
Tolerate each other? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Talk over
Yeah,
each other.
so someone gave Nicole crap, a week ago?
I don't know.
About the fact that she interrupts me sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're not TV show hosts. We're not trained actors.
We're just married.
We're just married. And if you ever listen to a married couple talk, good luck finding a couple that actually waits for the other person to finish their sentence before they start talking. Like, this is just...
Well, we try.
You just did it.
Yeah,
Do
I know.
not do that to me.
But you see, here's the problem. If I don't interrupt him, he will never stop talking.
What are you trying to say? This is true, though. This is very true.
He will just go on forever.
But I think that's the charm of it.
I have a list of questions I need to get answered.
Yeah.
So it's pinch it off,
knows how to-
Spags.
she knows
Pinch
how
it
to-
off.
Look, I'm trying to talk and I can't.
See? Pinch it off.
I just think that the person is sexist and wants you to back off because your man is talking.
Mike S. just did a nice super chat.
I do this show. I used to do it for Nicole's laughs. Now I do it for Jason's. And if he's laughing,
Doing it for the laughs.
if he's laughing, then I know I'm on the right track. All right, go ahead.
Favorite way to square large panels for cabinet carcasses, track saw with a T-square, MFT, table saw, sled, or something else.
All the above.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna like this. There's a video coming out today. As soon as I'm done here, I have a MFT cart video that will show you my plywood breakdown strategy as I build the MFT cart. So, couple different things. First of all, on the ground, that's where I lay my 4x8 sheets on top of insulation boards. I start cutting them down with my tracks. Woodpeckers, I don't even know if it's been released yet, but they came out with an updated version of their track square. It's so good. It's so accurate. The first one they made was kind of not great, but this one solved all the problems. It locks in at 90. So when we're doing that floor cut down, we actually get pretty darn square results right then and there. I then take those broken down pieces over to the table saw and I continue the process of making parallel cuts so that I have a nice square board. That's how I break them down. I also, if I have a really long piece and I've got a lot of cuts to make, I will use the MFT as kind of that sort of 90-degree cross-cut saw. It's like a cutoff saw. So it's a combination of things for me. Minimally, if you took everything else away and I was doing a lot of sheet goods, what I would probably want is one of those squares, a nice track and a track saw, and the ground. That is very versatile and it's the easiest thing to do. It just requires the track saw, the track, and that little square.
Gazeg said, finally, a video building an MFT cart without an MFT cart. whatever that means.
No, it's the people. It's the logic of the people who complain about building a workbench
Without a workbench.
when you already have a workbench that you're building on.
Yeah.
He's making a joke.
Yeah. But
It's not funny because stop it.
Got a super chat here from Al Richardson. Hello, Mark. Will padauk bleed into cherry?
Yep.
If so, any finishing tips on the prevention? I'm
Nope.
making a bed frame from cherry with padauk caps on the post.
Gosh, I feel like we've talked about this
We
a couple
did.
times recently.
And in fact,
Always like something with maple or a bleeding situation.
yeah. We have.
Okay, so I guess I'll
But
answer it again.
Al probably wasn't here,
I'm sure he wasn't.
so we're going to answer your
We're going
question.
to answer your question now. Yeah, I do anticipate bleeding. Anytime you have a brightly colored, oily exotic like padauk, you can certainly expect some bleed over into a domestic, right? Something that isn't necessarily like that. Even if it's another oily exotic, bottom line is the dust and the material from that exotic, when it gets finish on it, tends to want to bleed over and soak like ink, soak into the other wood. So there are strategies that people do with pre-finishing. So if you're talking about some kind of a cap, you might actually have the best case scenario there. I usually get this question when people are trying to like butt up edge to edge a bunch of different species and they don't want it to bleed over. That's a lot harder. That usually involves a light coat of, just a very dilute finish. Got some wind out there today.
Is it windy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see the trees moving.
You got some light finish coats that kind of just seal the color in, like a lacquer or shellac. Very, very light coats, and you're slowly building so that eventually you have this like layer of finish on top, and then now you could soak on a good thick finish because it's not touching the wood fibers. You also have to be careful about how you sand, right? So you absolutely want to make sure you are using dust collection while you're sanding, and then when you're done, you don't want to just kind of wipe it down and put finish on. You're going to want to vacuum as much of that dust off as possible, and then even get your compressed air and blow the dust. It's the dust that's really going to cause a lot of that bleeding, but you still usually need to pre-seal the surface to prevent that from happening. In your case, I don't know the exact project and build, but if you are doing an add-on piece, like a cap on something, like he's talking about bed posts, you have the possibility of maybe pre-finishing that piece and then only attaching and gluing it into place after the finish is applied. That's the best case scenario.
Best case.
Yes.
All right, we got.
Can I answer a question that's just live in the chat right here?
Yeah, go for
Sometimes I see one.
it. I like it when we do this fancy thing down there.
Yes. Randy Siester says, building a miter station, how often do you use both tracks or do you find that you use only one? Most of the time, Randy, I'm using only one. There have been times recently where it's just a weird cut and I want one that is just like a standard stop block. I don't want a flip stop. I don't want anything fancy. And sometimes we even thought about like having a hold down in that position. So it's not just a stop, but an actual hold down. And in those cases, that track that's in front of the back track actually is really handy because I'm able to, it's just more versatile. So T-track is not that expensive. And the way I look at it, it's an insurance policy. You absolutely do not need 2 rows of tracks. Have I found it occasionally useful to have 2 rows? Yep. And has it hurt me since then after the output of cash to buy the tracks? Having them in place hasn't done anything negative. So I say put them in and then you got them. But you're going to talk to most people who will tell you, and I agree with them, that it's not something that is going to be like a make or break thing for your miter station. 1 row of track is perfectly fine, but 2 is better.
So most of the time we do questions, but on occasion we'll get a nice comment in the chat. And I really want to respond to all of them, but I'm trying to keep the show going.
Is this someone consoling me for how much my wife interrupts me?
No. This is from Raul Lopez. He says, I just wanted to say thank you. You and your family feel like an extension of mine. The amount of inspiration I have attained from Mark and yourself, Nicole, I could never repay back. Thank you.
Well,
I just thought that was really nice.
That's
And
really sweet.
we get those. You don't really see those. I see all of them.
You withhold those from me because you don't want me to get an attitude and to get all like high on myself.
Yeah, but that was really nice. And I'm very thankful that you shared that.
We appreciate that. I mean, if one thing should be clear to anyone who follows us for any length of time is, we're just a family trying to make a go of it. We're in it for the long run. People who watched us from the beginning saw us pre-kids.
Yeah.
They saw us pre-gray hair. There's different phases of, your hair is perfect. Shut up. You've seen us go through these phases of life, especially with the kids, the dramatic changes. We've moved like 10 times. right? And people are with us through this whole journey. And I think anyone who meets us in person is usually kind of surprised maybe that we're actually, this is who we are. Like, we aren't actors. I say that all the time. But it's really cool to hear people appreciating, that family side of what we do. And that means what we're doing is working.
Monumental week this week on the family side. My daughter has been sleeping through the night, and I've been waking up in my own bed for almost in fact, it has been an entire week.
It's been pretty interesting. I'm used to looking over.
And seeing Millie.
Mateo comes into our bed every night.
He crawls in.
Whatever, it's fine. But I glance over Mateo, and I usually see a big Doberman going,
and she's like,
and her head's on the pillow, and I'm like, well, that's not my wife. But it's been weird. You've been in the bed every morning. It's crazy.
And it's huge. I was just thinking about it. I'm like, I think we're in the next phase.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought you were going to talk about the iPads.
Oh, no, we're not talking about that.
We had a monumental change this week. I want to tell the story because it's funny. Parents of small kids with iPads.
Electronics is always
electronics, just in general.
I'm
talking to you. iPads have been the greatest and worst thing we have ever had to contend with as parents.
And navigate.
And navigating it and moderating their access to it, right? And part of the problem is we're weak. And there are times when we just need a break, or we're trying to get something done, or
and we're both techies.
We're doing Friday Live,
and we are. I mean, we are techies.
It's hard because we're leading by example,
yes.
And our lives do involve tech with our jobs and what we do for fun. So anyway, the iPads it reached a breaking point for me, and I said, okay, here's the thing: I'm not going to take these iPads and throw them in the garbage because they're iPads.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to take these iPads and I'm going to go to Jim next door. I'm going to say, hey, Jim, hold these for me. I need a barrier between me and these iPads, so in a moment of weakness, I come up with something else that does not involve electronics. And I gave these damn iPads to my neighbor, and now it's going to be harder to get them back.
And the kids are like, can we go to Jim's?
Yeah, we want to go to Jim's house. No particular reason why you want to go to Jim's house. No. Can we go to Jim's? So parenting confession there.
Yes.
Sometimes you know yourself, and if you have weaknesses, you put barriers to prevent yourself from giving in.
And every kid is different. Your kid may be totally different. You may have different rules, and that's great.
Yeah.
But
every kid is different. You're right.
I mean, that's
some kids can tolerate a lot of it.
Yeah.
Ours can. But there are limits, and we've seen those limits, and now it's time to completely pull back.
We're on a nice long break.
Yeah.
To recenter.
Yep.
I got a question here from Rick Feldman. Are you going to have a meetup in Atlanta at WORKBENCHcon?
Yeah, it's called WORKBENCHcon.
No, we're not doing any kind of meetup.
It's one big meetup.
The whole event is the meetup.
Yeah, and normally if we were doing like...
Because he's not working there.
It's someone who isn't going to the thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I'm not planning something.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that someone else might not plan something which I might attend.
Yeah.
But we are not ourselves planning an event.
Right.
I'm actually planning on going. I should have put the picture in there, my Halloween picture. I'm planning on going incognito.
Yeah.
I will have a mullet wig.
Yeah.
And a big pair of sunglasses, and no one will know it's me.
And your awesome custom shirts that I bought you.
Look, I've invested in this trip.
You did.
I really have. I made 3 custom shirts.
Yep.
And I will eventually wear them on the show.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll wear them, but I don't want to ruin the secret.
No.
They are exactly what you think my shirt would say if I could say something that everyone would see when I walk around at a show like that.
Yeah.
3 very nice shirts.
Yes, they're very nice.
Everyone's going to be like, why are you here?
Yeah, you're such a jerk.
You're miserable. You're a jerk. You don't like talking about this stuff. Why are you here? And I'll be like, I missed Matt.
You're #blessed.
#blessed. Shirt number 4. Okay, what else we got?
We got a question here from David D. Is there any reason to avoid maple on an outdoor project if price is comparable to ash? I live in Arizona in case the weather impacts the response.
Yeah, I think so. Maple isn't exactly known to be a great rot-resistant outdoor species. So I would be very cautious about using maple. You're going to want to make sure it's got a good finish, and you're going to want to make sure that finish is never compromised. If you see compromise, you need to refinish. The idea would be to completely protect the wood from the environment. Cover it if you can, whatever kind of project it is. Maple is not, in general, considered a great choice for outdoor furniture. Now, that said, we do have some of that torrefied maple that we got from Austin last week, And that stuff is heat treated, which makes it rot resistant, completely changes the properties of the wood. And that is a material that I'm considering making some stuff out of. And it is still soft maple. So,
Hey, so if you do happen to go to WORKBENCHcon, or if you happen to ever see him out and about, he's not really a jerk. He's nice. Talk to him. No, you're not. You're absolutely not.
I'm here's a little bit about me. I'm an introvert. You know, we talked about this morning. We had a conversation about like things that I get asked to do, and she's like, "Well, you're kind of jaded to it." And I'm like, "But is it that I'm jaded? Have I ever really been excited about doing certain social
You like
things?"
doing the woodworking.
I love woodworking. I love teaching woodworking. The social aspect, in spite of us doing this show, which is very social, you guys are literally like at arm's length here, right? And it's just me and my wife, my brother-in-law, my dogs sometimes. I actually am an introvert. I don't thrive in social environments. They're very difficult for me. They take a lot out of me. And I want to be like, hey, everybody, let's hang out. Let's go get some beers. But like, that's not my natural personality. And I try to balance my introverted nature with the job that I now have that puts me in a position where shaking hands, meeting people, and hanging out is something I'm supposed to want to do.
Yeah.
But as an introvert, it is a very difficult thing for me to resolve in my brain.
Well, you always, so I'm on Quora a lot, and there's always the questions that come up like, who was the famous person you met and was surprised by? And they're always like, that Jennifer Lopez is a diva.
Right.
Like, I never want to hear, I want you to have good
there are
experience.
people who say that about us just because their impression of me in a certain situation without any context was bad. And it is what it is. But that's the thing. A lot of times you look at someone and you think that they're too uppity to hang out with you, someone you know from YouTube or whatever. Maybe they just don't enjoy that personal interaction.
There was a Terry Crews. Do you remember him?
The big dude from that
Brooklyn
show.
Nine-Nine. So
and the president Macho Camacho.
Yeah, our president. So anyway, he was out, and this woman went on Twitter and was like, Terry Crews is so rude, blah, blah, blah. And he responded to her, he's like, no, what I was reacting to is you knocking my child over to get a picture.
Right,
like
the person was being rude.
Her perspective was, he didn't accommodate me for a picture, and his perspective was, you're an insane woman that just accosted me while I was out with my family.
Right.
So anyway.
Somebody, this is great. He goes, Mark wants to sound like Bullwinkle. And I was like, hey, everybody, let's go get some beers. That is my goal, to sound like Bullwinkle.
J-Mac did a super chat, and I think this is their comment. 11th move fun. I might have moved more than you.
Yeah.
And I totally understand.
Oh, thanks, man.
J-Mac.
And we're not moving.
No.
We're staying here.
As much as Jason wants us to.
We're staying put. He told me that the MDF is cheaper in Missouri, so there's one plus.
Brian.
This guy goes, introvert meetup. Does anyone show up?
You know what?
A meeting of the introverts.
So there are book clubs now that you can, they basically set the book club up. You go there and read for an hour and don't say a word to anybody.
Isn't that called the library? What do you need a meetup for? Go to the damn library.
I think the idea is that you kind of ease into it, and if you do want to, interact after, you can. But the first hour is like silence and you're
maybe
reading.
like try to get comfortable.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah, I don't know. It's a personality flaw, and I found
it's not a flaw.
No, I think it is,
It's
and
just
I found myself in a very odd position based on the choices we've made with the business that puts me in this position where there's an expectation for my behavior, and it doesn't necessarily gel with my sort of intrinsic personality.
Yeah. Brian Porter wants to know, my shop is semi-small, the size of a one-car garage, so space is always at a premium. Can you think of cons for adding a router table to my cabinet saw, or pros to having a separate table?
Well, there's lots of pros to having separates. This goes with anything. AV gear, it's nice to have your components separated. Just because it's purpose-built for that thing, you've got more room. If something breaks, you're not affecting anything else. So that goes for the workshop too. But when space is at a premium, one of the best space savers is what you're talking about, to put that router table in an otherwise mostly unused large surface area. So there's all kinds of clever solutions for extension wing router tables, and you should absolutely consider them. And they sometimes take a little more work. You got to make sure your bit is below the surface when you're not using it. Maybe come up with a solution that utilizes both sides of your fence, so your table saw fence can also be your router table fence. Lots of cool stuff you could do. I'm totally for combining those two. That's one probably on the list of top 5 things you can do in a tight space to help conserve that space.
William said this is his first Friday live, always at working, but I put a 55-hour and 4-day work week. I couldn't work today. Got any recommendations for anti-fatigue mats?
Sure.
We do. In fact, Mark has a couple of articles on the website.
Yeah, just go to thewoodwhisperer.com, go to the search field, search for rubber flooring. I think I have 2 articles where it was when we were doing the Arizona shop, I was considering my options, and one of them was like, not a statement, but a question, rubber flooring for the shop? Like, is this something we should do, wall-to-wall rubber flooring? And I considered my options, and eventually, after years of just having to be really concerned about what shoes I wear, having those really lightweight mats put in front of other things that get sucked up by the vacuum all the time, I decided that the rubber flooring made of recycled tires, which is really heavy and dense, would be perfect. And you would think they don't have a whole lot of spring to them. It's almost like flooring you might find in like a weight room, a gym. It's not that thick, but it is amazing how little give your heels need to be comfortable. So we work in here, every day, 5 days a week, sometimes on weekends, long hours. I have never, and as someone who had chronic lower back issues and foot fatigue, since we had this flooring here, I've never had a problem. And right now, I'm wearing one of the most unsupportive shoes one can wear.
Yeah. Chuck, get out of here.
I'm like Bruce Lee over here.
That's not very nice.
It's pretty funny to me,
Yeah,
and this is what happens when you
gotta
talk over me.
You got to give me a hug now.
So yeah, even with unsupportive shoes, I don't have any problems. Jason, you have any problems in here?
I was going to say, I used to work conventions where we go to
By the way, I just
education-
gave you the thumbnail for this week.
Okay.
Me kicking you in the face.
And I would be on my feet like 8+ hours a day for 3 to 4 days straight demoing software. And they would always have in the booth just thick pads, like rubbery, like squishy. It would hurt. My back would be hurting so bad by the end of it. It was not good anti-fatigue stuff.
Interesting.
It was like the opposite of anti-fatigued.
Well, and the interesting thing about it is too, but even though these are heavier, they link together, right? They're laser cut, perfectly like puzzle piece fit together. You could vacuum them. They don't pull up, even with a really strong vac. But you cannot roll tools on them. If you have heavy tools, they will stretch and kind of buckle under the weight. So anytime we have to roll a tool, the tools themselves are on the concrete. And if we have to move a tool, we pull up tiles and then move it around. So if you're looking for a mobile shop solution, maybe you want to park in that garage, or in your shop, you want to be careful and don't plan on putting the tools on top of this stuff.
Yeah, it's
Work
like outline
around
it.
your tools.
Yeah.
My router table, that's a lighter thing, that one will roll on here just fine. Rolling carts, no problem. Anything with like a couple 100 pounds, now you're talking about something that's going to have trouble.
MFT card works good.
MFT works, yeah, MFT card is fine. Again, you'll see that today. I'm going to do a watch party. If you guys follow us on YouTube, when we release a video, you can do a watch party. The one I found that annoys people is if you plan the watch party really far in advance, it shows up in people's feeds and it's almost a teaser. Like they think it's a new video, but it's just a notice about the watch party. What I do is I do the watch party immediately as I open up and upload the file. So I'm going to do that this afternoon. I'll be there chatting with you guys if anyone wants to participate in that. Make sure you follow us, click the notification bell on the Wood Whisperer, and make sure you're subscribed. And you should get a notification when I tell it to do a premiere.
Somebody made me laugh really hard. Kevin Bostrom said, I know now that if I find myself running into the both of you, I should talk to Nicole and ignore Mark.
I'd be okay with that. In fact, when we're at these events, I've learned a lot from Nicole. She's done so much with her work and demonstrations and conferences that she's had to do, where she's learned a lot of tricks about how to talk to strangers. And I was really bad at this. And now I've actually gotten pretty good because I've learned from her how you deal with someone who you don't know anything about them, but they probably know quite a bit
lot
about
about
you. how do you engage that person and make them feel like you're taking a few seconds to talk to them, make you feel like you genuinely gave some time to them. And that is something I've been working on, like when we do the book signings, right?
Yeah.
So let's practice it. Ready?
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good. Who am I playing?
You're the person, you're coming to get your book signed.
Oh.
Okay.
He's already there.
Yeah, I can play myself. It's
Okay,
probably
yeah,
the
yeah,
most
yeah,
effective.
yeah.
So, ready?
Yeah.
This is actually what happens. A lot of times, they don't say anything.
No.
They just look at you.
You're like, because I know I've been in this situation where I've met people that I respect and I'm nervous. Like,
Yeah.
I've thought about this moment.
and you go,
yeah, and it's a big
Okay.
deal.
So can I sign your book for you?
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
All right, here. Who should I make it out to?
What? Are we really doing this
Yeah,
on the
who
show?
who should I make it out to?
Nicole.
Okay. What kind of woodworking do you do?
I quilt.
Oh, you're not so this is for your husband.
Yes, it's for my husband.
All right, well, get out of here. Tell your husband to come back and get his own book signed. It's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
I just thought a little role playing would be fun.
Yeah.
For the
That's
show.
great. That's
A
great.
new segment for the show.
Outward.
All right, we got a question and a super chat from Russell Mitchell. I'm making a crosscut sled, and I have a Forest Woodworker 2 and a Forest is that right? Duraline HAT blade.
Yeah,
I've
HAT.
never heard of that.
They
blade.
got all kinds of stuff.
For plywood.
It's a tooth configuration.
Gotcha. Do I need to make a crosscut sled for each blade? What do you think?
I wouldn't. I mean, you could, but come on, that would suck.
To switch them out.
Well, the thing is, the blade, it really comes down to the dimension of the kerf, right? How thick are the teeth or how wide are the teeth? So you'll know immediately. You could just do a test right now, lock a board in, make a cut with one, swap out that thing, and just do this with your miter gauge, and then put the other blade in, cut again, and see if there's any difference in where that tooth is touching. You may just have to live with a little bit of a gap with one of the blades. Personally, I mean, I'm not even at the point where I want to switch blades for rip and crosscut, right? So you have one that's specifically for plywood. If you're into being that specific about it, you might want to make that second sled. In my shop, heck no, not going to happen.
no.
Heck no.
Heck no.
And here's the other thing. You're using really high quality blades. You're not going to get much chip out to begin with. It's a little bit more forgiving when you go to a high grade, top of the line blade. You make those cuts, even if there's a little bit of gap and there's not a true zero clearance, maybe it'll be a little bit fuzzy, but you're going to sand it, you're going to process that piece, and it's going to look just fine. You know, if you were using, I don't know, something that came with the saw, the stock blade, okay, then it's a little bit more important that we focus on zero clearance and things like that, but you've got good blades. But you may luck out. The kerf may be the same, the placement may be the same, and you end up with something that doesn't need that second option.
Someone was asking me about the clock that we have. I'm going to put it in our Friday Live store, which I thought it was there, but it apparently
Oh, it was. I know it was.
It was? I looked
In the
for
past.
I didn't see it.
We put it in a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm going to add it, and it'll go to the top.
Our role playing made people uncomfortable. Glenn specifically said he's
Try
uncomfortable.
being in my shoes.
It made me uncomfortable too.
For some reason, oddly enough, I was the only one comfortable with the whole interaction.
I'll also put a link in the show notes for directly to the clock. It's a great clock. I'll warn you, it's a little expensive, but it's been a solid clock.
It's held up. Batteries have lasted for what, almost a year now, huh?
Yeah.
All right, what else we got?
We got a super chat
We're
from
coming up on our hour.
Robert Price. Thanks for all you guys do. Enjoy a couple donkeys.
Oh,
I like, that's a East Coast term that doesn't really come over to this side.
careful there.
Donkeys.
I lived in New Jersey, like the first quarter of my life.
Yeah. Do you say donkeys?
I'm not 80 yet, so that doesn't
Did you
work
ever
out.
go to get a donkey?
No, it's Duncan.
Right, but I've heard a lot of folks.
No, I know. Some people do that. I'm just saying it's not like all of the East Coast calls it donkeys.
Yes.
If you called it donkeys where I came from, you'd probably get punched in the face.
Oh, that's not.
Because it's like,
that's
it's
not-
Dunkin'. Dunkin' Donuts.
No, I don't think so.
I don't care what it is. I'll drink it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Robert.
I'm going to drink it no matter what.
Joseph Mensch says, #introverts unite.
Yeah.
But let's all do it from our own homes.
Yes. Well, unite remotely.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yes.
Joseph gave us some really good recommendations on gluten-free bread.
Oh, he did. Yeah, and I looked for it.
We couldn't find it at Costco, so
No.
I'm gonna order some.
Yeah.
From the website he gave us.
I meant to tell you that gluten-free bread was like good till May.
Oh, the one you saw in the store? Yeah.
Yes. I was like, that's some
crazy.
serious bread.
I preferred the days when I would make fun of the whole gluten-free thing.
Yeah.
The fact that I actually now need to worry about it,
Yeah.
I feel like it's the punishment that I
Yeah.
deserve for making fun. I used to be like, give me all the glutens. All right.
Let's see. Charles wants to know where.
Aren't donkeys the little donut balls? No, those
No,
are
the
munchkins.
Munchkins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which we don't eat anyway.
Yeah. He's originally from Trenton, New Jersey.
But Udi's soft white. No, that is not the recommendation. It was. I think it starts with an F or something, the recommendation Joseph gave. Udi's is the brand that we do have access to.
Yeah.
Our Whole Foods carries those.
Mm-hmm.
Wawa for life.
Got a question here from Kevin Hahn. On rabbet joints, do you prefer to cut the rabbet on the longer piece or the shorter piece? This is for a case, not a drawer. Trying to finalize a design and I can't make up my mind.
I don't really think in terms of longer and shorter. I guess you could, because the workflow and how you cut it might be affected. If it's a longer piece and you're cutting on the end of that piece with a rabbet, now you've got to manage that. If you're using the table saw, it's a bigger piece to manage. So sometimes I should say that that will impact which side gets the groove, the actual rabbet. Because of the way the tool would operate or the way the work would be on the tool. So I do consider that sometimes. And if it's a 6 1/2 dozen sort of situation where strength and appearance don't really matter, I would pick the piece that's easier to make that cut on. And it just makes life easier. But there are times when you're building something where which side gets the exposed plywood, right? So depending on what you're doing, maybe you're building a case and you plan to put a top on it, then I might just put my rabbet on the sides so that I get a nice clean outside edge. Then the rabbet comes in, that exposed plywood edge is on the top, and I'm putting another top on top of that, so it doesn't matter, right? So it kind of depends, but I would mostly be concerned about structure and appearance, and if those things are satisfied, then go with that, or pick the one that's the easiest to create the rabbet on. Okay, we're over our hours, so we should probably wrap it up.
My coffee's cold.
Well, that's another reason why we should stop.
Yeah.
We did want to add one more very quick segment.
This is where the woodworking talk stops.
Yeah, well, I mean, did it ever really start is the question. A lot of people ask us about video games.
All the time.
And what games we're playing. So we thought once in a while, because we still are playing quite a bit, we'll talk about that. And I realize this won't be that interesting to everybody, but we're just going to make it quick, and then people don't have to ask, what are we playing?
Yeah.
And Nicole does a podcast called Ladies of Leet where she actually talks about this with her friends.
I have a new episode coming out soon.
Yeah, they record an episode, and then 3 months later, Nicole edits it and puts it out.
Well, this one's going to be 1 week later.
She'll be like, this week, we're talking about the newly released PS4. Oh, okay. So we'll just very quickly, I'm playing right now. I finished the Fallen Order, the Star Wars game. I love being in a Star Wars world.
Yeah.
I love being in that environment. I think the game is flawed.
Yeah.
And I was glad I played through it, but it has problems. But I'm done with it.
But did you like it, though? Did you have fun with it?
I liked most of it.
Okay.
I was frustrated with a lot of it.
Gotcha.
And then I moved to The Witcher 3, because I'm late to that game.
Yeah.
Nicole and I decided to...
Because of the new show on Netflix.
Right. That's actually what started me thinking about it. And it gets great reviews. And we got ourselves some nice little
Witcher
gaming laptops.
is also on Switch.
On the Switch. I didn't want it on the Switch.
Yeah.
It just seems like if you have the Switch, and I hear there's cartoon boobies in there.
Yeah.
It feels weird playing that on the Switch.
Yeah,
It's like, to me, the Switch is, I focus on that with the kids.
Yeah.
I'm playing The Witcher on there is a little weird. But anyway, so we got these little gaming laptops that we've been using because we don't have enough gaming devices in our life. And I'm playing it on there. So every night I got my little laptop going. I got my little controller on the recliner, sitting there playing some Witcher. Yeah. That's what I'm doing. What about you, Nicole?
So I created a category because we talk about games on this show a little bit called What We're Playing, and you're going to find all of these in that section. I am playing an amazing game called Control, and if you are
Control?
Not Janet Jackson.
Oh,
Not Janet
I prefer
Jackson.
to play that game.
Yeah. Control. So I loved a game called Alan Wake that came out in, I think it was 010 or 010.
010.
010. No, 010. But anyway, it came out a while back. It was only on the Xbox. You could only play it there. So it's by a company called Remedy, and they released this game, Control, end of last year, and I totally missed it. Picked it up on a sale, not even knowing what I was playing. It just looked kind of weird and cool. And as I was playing it, you go into this area where a lot of supernatural things are happening, and you can levitate stuff, and you fight these bad guys. And I found out that it is in the same world as Alan Wake, and I'm finding little pieces of paper telling me about what happened in the Alan Wake story that I didn't know.
Oh my god.
And I love it so much.
Sounds good.
It's a great game, a lot of fun.
Now I'm gonna.
Jason's playing pool.
Jason's playing pool on his iPhone.
He gets
So
so
there's
intense too. He's like, oh!
He's really into it.
I missed my shot.
Dang it. Yeah, and the truth behind this is we're really looking for an excuse to expense our video game purchases. So welcome to the new segment on
Yes.
Friday Live.
Well, and because people constantly ask us what we're playing on this,
No, well,
and I feel
because
like
of Ladies Elite, we have always considered that
Yeah.
part of the Wood Whisperer business. But still, yeah, we just thought it would be fun to do that. And those who don't like it, it's at the end of the show.
yeah,
They can
so
cut
you
out.
can just
Yeah.
you can leave before this.
All right, so I think we're good, right?
So yeah, Aaron in the chat. If you loved Alan Wake, you need to play Control. You can play it on PC. You can play it on PS4. There's no restrictions this time.
Rick Feldman is a fan of Pong. So there's that.
That was my first video game I ever played. Was
Old
Pong.
school, baby.
Dad brought home the Atari 2600, and Pong was on it, and we played it.
That's old school.
It was old school.
That's how you do it.
TV sitting on blocks on plywood.
Right. All right. So I think we're going to wrap it
We
up.
are.
We will see you again next week for another great show. Probably be in a bad mood for that one. So
Why?
I don't know. I was in a better mood today.
You never referenced that one show that you weren't feeling good. He had food poisoning that day.
Oh yeah, that's right. You guys. Was it last week?
No, because that was Matt.
The week before.
Matt, it was the week before.
Right. Yeah, where my stomach was a little bit
you're
off,
like,
and
"Oh, I
then
feel
that
so
day
bad."
I spent the day in bed, covered by like 5 layers of covers, fully clothed, with the fireplace on, because I was freezing my butt off, shivering. I had a fever. It was nasty. 24 hours. Felt just fine the next day. So I'm glad that was short and sweet.
So, we need to pick a guild winner.
Yeah, let's pick a guild winner.
Yeah. How about? I'm gonna give a project to Raul Lopez. Raul.
Because he said a nice thing.
Yeah, it was nice.
Okay, well,
And I
thank you,
wanna say
Raul.
Thank you.
Make
for
sure
the
you email
nice-
Nicole.
Made my day. Nicole, NICOLE, at thewoodwhisperer.com.
There you go. All
And I'll
right.
get you hooked up.
Free project for you. How
Yay.
nice. So nice of you.
And that doesn't mean you have to give me compliments to get a free project. Just you never know what you never know. You
So
never
throw
know.
compliments our way and just see what happens. All right. Once again, I'm going to mention Patreon, patreon.com/woodwhisperer.
Yeah.
That's a great place to help support the show.
Yep.
Get some stuff in return. And again, keep an eye on it. We might have some changes coming.
Yeah, Kyle
today.
gave me some good feedback that I'll talk to you about.
Okay, good. Good deal. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a wonderful woodworking weekend, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.